Captain Elena Vasquez stared out the viewing window of the transport ship as it moved through space toward the meeting point. Earth looked small behind them now, just a blue dot in the darkness. She had never been this far from home before. 3 months ago, she was teaching new pilots how to fly basic ships. Now she was leading humanity's first joint mission with alien allies the Galactic Council had welcomed. Earth only 2 years ago. The humans were still learning how things worked. In the galaxy, there were so many rules and customs they did not understand yet. The Council said they wanted peace between all species. They said they wanted to help smaller civilizations grow and become strong. Elena believed them because she wanted to believe them. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Marcus Chun, walked up beside her. He was young and excited about everything. They saw, "Captain, the Valoran ships just appeared on our sensors. They are bigger than I expected." Elena nodded. She had read about the Valorans but had never seen them in person. They were warriors who had served the Council for over 300 years. The files said they were honorable but fierce in battle. The Council trusted them with important missions. Though Elena noticed the Valorans were never given the best territories or the most advanced technology. "Send them our greeting signal," Elena said. "Tell them we are ready to begin the mission." The communication screen lit up and Elena saw her first Valoran. War Chief Thakmor was huge, nearly 8 feet tall with thick gray skin and 4 arms. His face had scars from old battles and his eyes were the color of dark amber. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rough. "Human Captain," Thakmor said. "I am War Chief Thakmor of the 3rd Valoran Fleet. The Council has ordered us to work together. I will follow their commands, but I do not understand why they sent such a small and weak species on this mission." Elena felt her face get hot with anger, but she kept her voice calm. "War Chief Thakmor, humans may be new to the galaxy, but we are not weak. We have survived many wars on our own planet and learned to adapt to any situation." Thakmor made a sound that might have been laughter. "We shall see, Human Captain." The mission briefing said we are to investigate strange energy readings near the Nexus sector. This area has been restricted by the Council for 50 years. No one knows what is there. "That's exactly why we need to work together," Elena said. "My ships are fast and good at scanning. Your ships are strong and well-armed. Together we can handle whatever we find." "Perhaps," Thakmor said. "But if there is danger, the Valorans will fight while you humans run back to your safe worlds." Elena was about to respond when her science officer called out, "Captain, we are picking up the energy readings now. They are much stronger than the Council report said they would be." On the main screen, space ahead of them looked normal. But the energy sensors showed something huge hidden in the darkness. The readings were so powerful they made the ship's instruments buzz and flicker. "War Chief," Elena said into the communication link. "Are you seeing this?" "Yes," Thakmor replied. His voice sounded different now, more serious. "These energy levels are not natural. Something artificial is creating them, something very large." Elena's ships moved closer, staying in formation with the Valoran vessels. The Valoran ships were built like floating fortresses, covered in weapons and armor. The human ships were smaller and sleeker, designed for speed and exploration. They made an odd pair as they flew through space together. "Captain," her sensor operator said, "I'm detecting a massive structure ahead. It's hidden by some kind of cloaking technology, but our scans are breaking through." On the screen, a shape began to appear. It was enormous, larger than any space station Elena had ever seen. The structure was dark and angular, with towers and docking bays scattered across its surface. Ships moved around it like insects around a hive. "By the ancestors," Thakmor's voice came through the speaker. "That is not on any Council maps. What is that place?" Elena studied the readings. "It looks like a research facility. But why would the Council hide it? And why is it so heavily defended?" The structure had weapon platforms and shield generators all around it. Hundreds of ships patrolled the area. These were not exploration vessels or cargo haulers. These were warships designed for fighting. "Captain," Lieutenant Chun said quietly, Those ship designs match Council military specifications. But they are not supposed to have any bases in this sector. Elena felt a cold feeling in her stomach. Something was very wrong here. The Council had sent them to investigate energy readings, but they had not mentioned finding a secret military base. Either the Council did not know about this place, or they were not telling the truth about the mission. War Chief Thakmor, Elena said. We need to get closer and scan that facility. But we should be careful. If those ships detect us, we could be in serious trouble. Agreed, Thakmor said. My ships will move to attack position in case we need to fight our way out. Your ships should focus on gathering information. Elena did not like the idea of fighting Council ships, but she understood Thakmor's caution. They moved closer to the hidden base, using asteroids and cosmic dust to hide their approach. The human ships had better stealth technology, so they took the lead. What they found made Elena sick to her stomach. The facility was not just a research base, it was a prison. The scans showed thousands of life forms being held in cells throughout the structure. The energy readings came from massive machines that were doing something to the prisoners. Captain, her medical officer said, the bioscans show multiple species in there. Many of them appear to be in distress. Some of the readings suggest they are being subjected to genetic manipulation. Elena's hands shook as she read the reports. The Council was supposed to protect all species in the galaxy, but here was proof that they were conducting illegal experiments on captured civilians. This was not research. This was torture. Thakmor, Elena said. Are you getting these readings? Yes, the war chief replied. His voice was filled with anger. This violates every law of the Council. This violates everything the Council claims to stand for. Elena watched the sensor data stream across her screens. She saw laboratories where scientists in Council uniforms worked on alien beings strapped to tables. She saw storage areas filled with genetic samples from dozens of species. She saw disposal units where the bodies of failed experiments were destroyed. They are harvesting genetic material, Elena said. They are trying to combine traits from different species, but why? Lieutenant Chun looked pale as he read his reports. Captain, some of these genetic samples match human DNA, and some match Valoran DNA. They have been studying us. Elena felt like she was going to be sick. The Council had welcomed humanity and the Valorans, but all along they had been planning to use them for experiments. How many other species had been tricked the same way? We need to document everything. Elena said, we need proof that the Council cannot deny. For the next 6 hours, both human and Valoran ships worked together to scan every part of the hidden facility. They recorded video evidence of the experiments. They copied data files from the computers. They identified the prisoners and documented their suffering. Elena found herself working closely with Thakmor as they planned their investigation. The Valoran war chief was nothing like she had expected. Yes, he was a warrior, but he was also intelligent and honorable. When he saw the evidence of what the Council was doing, his anger was not the rage of a savage. It was the fury of someone whose trust had been broken. Captain Vasquez, Thakmor said during one of their planning sessions, I owe you an apology. I called your species weak when we first met, but I see now that humans have something my people respect, the courage to seek truth even when it is dangerous. And I see that Valorans are not just warriors, Elena replied. You have honor and compassion. Those prisoners in there include children, Thakmor. Children of species I do not even recognize. The Council is experimenting on children. Thakmor's 4 hands clenched into fists. When the full Council hears this evidence, there will be justice. The ones responsible for this will face the consequences of their actions. Elena hoped he was right. But as she looked at the massive secret facility with its hundreds of guard ships, she wondered how many Council members already knew about this place. How far up did the corruption go? We have enough evidence, Elena finally said. We should return to Council space and present our findings to the full assembly. As they prepared to leave, Elena felt a bond forming between her crew and the Valorans. They had started this mission as strangers forced to work together. Now they were allies united by a shared sense of justice. They had seen something terrible together, and now they would fight to stop it together. The journey back to Council. Space took 3 days. During that time, Elena and Thakmor worked together to organize their evidence. They prepared their presentation carefully, knowing that they would be accusing some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy of horrible crimes. The Council will have to act, Elena said as they approached the Council chambers. No one can ignore evidence like this. Thakmor nodded, but Elena could see worry in his amber eyes. Captain, promise me something. If the Council does not act with honor, if they try to cover this up, we must be ready to take action ourselves. Elena looked at the evidence they had gathered. Pictures of children being tortured. Videos of experiments that violated every law of civilization. Data showing that the Council had been lying to every species in the galaxy about their true intentions. I promise, Elena said. If the Council will not bring justice, then we will find another way. Neither of them knew that their promise would soon be tested in ways they could never imagine. The secret facility they had discovered was just the beginning. The corruption in the Council went deeper than either species had suspected, and the punishment for discovering the truth would be swift and brutal. As their ships approached the Council chambers, Elena felt hope mixed with fear. She hoped that justice would prevail. But she feared that the galaxy was not the peaceful place she had believed it to be. Soon she would learn that in a corrupt system, those who seek truth become enemies of the state. The die was cast. Humanity and the Valorans had chosen to stand for justice. Now they would discover what that choice would cost them. The Council chamber was the largest room Elena had ever seen. It stretched for miles in every direction, with floating platforms where representatives from hundreds of species sat in judgment. The ceiling was made of transparent metal that showed the stars beyond. At the center of it all sat the inner circle. The ancient beings who ruled the galaxy. Elena stood next to War Chief Thakmor on the presentation platform. Both of them wore their best uniforms. Elena's hands were steady, but her heart was beating fast. This was the moment that would decide the fate of thousands of innocent prisoners. The speaker for the inner circle was a Zycri named Elder Vexhai. The Zycri looked like giant insects with smooth black shells and multiple eyes. They had ruled the Council for over 1,000 years. Elder Vexhai's voice echoed through the chamber when he spoke. Captain Vasquez of Earth and War Chief Thakmor of Valoran Prime. You have requested an emergency session of the full Council. State your business. Elena stepped forward. Honored Elder, we have discovered a secret facility in the Nexus sector. This facility is conducting illegal experiments on captured civilians from multiple species. We have evidence that these crimes are being committed by Council personnel. A murmur went through the chamber. Many of the representatives looked shocked. Others looked worried. The inner circle members whispered to each other in languages Elena could not understand. These are serious accusations, Elder Vexhai said. Present your evidence. For the next 2 hours, Elena and Thakmor showed everything they had found. Videos of the experiments played on screens throughout the chamber. Data files proved that Council ships had been kidnapping civilians for years. Medical records showed genetic material being harvested from dozens of species. Elena watched the faces of the Council members as they saw the evidence. Many looked horrified. Some covered their eyes when the worst videos played. A few representatives from smaller species began to cry when they saw children of their own kind being tortured. This is an outrage, shouted Representative Coulter from the ethereal nomads. How can the Council allow such things to happen? The facility must be shut down immediately, added Representative Zindel from the Crystalline Collective. The prisoners must be freed and the criminals punished. But Elena noticed that the inner circle members were not shocked. They looked annoyed, like someone had interrupted an important meeting with unpleasant news. Elder Vexhai's multiple eyes showed no emotion as he watched the evidence. When the presentation ended, Elder Vexhai stood up. The inner circle will now deliberate on this matter. All representatives will remain silent while we consider the evidence. The inner circle members floated their platform to the center of the chamber. They spoke in hushed tones for what felt like hours. Elena could not hear what they were saying, but she could see their body language. They were not discussing how to stop the experiments. They were discussing how to handle the problem of being caught. Finally, Elder Vexhai returned to his position. The inner circle has reached a decision. We find this evidence to be fabricated and false. Captain Vasquez and War Chief Thakemore are hereby accused of creating propaganda designed to undermine the stability of the Council. Elena felt like she had been hit in the stomach. Fabricated? How can you say that? We have video evidence, data, files, genetic records, all of which can be easily faked with modern technology, Elder Vexhai said calmly. The inner circle knows of no facility in the Nexus sector. The energy readings you detected were likely from natural phenomena. Your so-called evidence is nothing more than clever computer graphics designed to cause panic. Thakemore stepped forward, his 4 hands clenched into fists. You lie, Elder. We saw the facility with our own eyes. We scanned the prisoners, we recorded the experiments. This evidence is real. War Chief Thakemore, Elder Vexhai said, your species has always been prone to violence and aggression. The inner circle believes you have been manipulated by human propaganda. Humans are known for their deceptive nature and their desire to cause conflict. Elena could not believe what she was hearing. The Council was not just ignoring the evidence. They were blaming her and Thakemore for discovering it. She looked around the chamber and saw that many of the other representatives looked confused and uncertain. The inner circle's words were poisoning their minds against the truth. Furthermore, Elder Vexhai continued, the inner circle has discovered evidence that both Earth and Valorum Prime have been planning military action against peaceful Council worlds. This false evidence about experiments is clearly designed to justify an unprovoked attack. That is a lie, Elena shouted. Neither Earth nor Valorum Prime has any plans to attack anyone. We came here seeking justice, not war. But Elder Vexhai was not finished. The inner circle has decided that both species represent a clear and present danger to galactic peace. Effective immediately, all human and Valoran ships are ordered to return to their home systems. Any vessels that do not comply will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. Elena felt the trap closing around them. The Council was not just covering up their crimes. They were setting up humans and Valorans to be destroyed. She looked at Thakemore and saw the same realization in his amber eyes. You planned this, Thakemore said quietly. You sent us to that sector knowing we would find the facility. You wanted U.S. to discover your crimes so you could accuse us of making them up. Elder Vexhai's insect face showed what might have been a smile. War Chief Thakemore, your paranoid accusations only prove that your species cannot be trusted with membership in civilized society. Elena's mind raced as she tried to understand the full scope of the trap. The experiments they had found were real, but they were not secret accidents. They were part of a larger plan. The Council had been studying humans and Valorans, learning their strengths and weaknesses. Now they were ready to eliminate both species. The Council session is ended, Elder Vexhai announced. Captain Vasquez and War Chief Thakemore will be escorted back to their ships. They have 24 hours to leave Council space. After that, any human or Valoran vessel will be fired upon without warning. Security forces surrounded Elena and Thakemore as they were led from the chamber. Elena caught glimpses of other representatives trying to speak out, but their voices were drowned out by the noise of the crowd. The ethereal nomads and crystalline collective representatives looked angry and confused, but they were powerless against the inner circle's decision. As they walked through the corridors of the Council station, Thakemore spoke quietly to Elena. Captain, we must warn our homeworlds. This is not over. The Council will not let us simply leave, Elena nodded. They have been planning this for a long time. The experiments, the accusations, the setup. They want both our species gone, and they want it to look like we brought it on ourselves when they reached their ships. Elena immediately sent encrypted messages to Earth and Valoran Prime. She warned them about the Council's accusations and told them to prepare their defenses. But she feared the warnings would not be enough. Thakemore gathered his captains for an emergency meeting. Elena was invited to join them in the war room of his flagship. The Valoran ship was built for battle, with thick armor and powerful weapons. But even this mighty vessel seemed small compared to the vast fleet that the Council could bring against them, my fellow warriors, Thekamor said to his captains. We face a great deception. The Council has betrayed everything they claim to stand. For they conduct experiments on innocent civilians, and when we expose their crimes, they accuse us of lies and aggression. Captain Morkith, an old Valoran with scars covering half his face, spoke up. War Chief, if the Council means to destroy us, why do we not strike first? Our ships are strong, and theirs are unprepared for battle. Because that is exactly what they want us to do, Elena said. If we attack now, it will prove their accusations that we are aggressive and dangerous. They will use our attack to justify destroying both our species. Thakmar nodded. Captain Vasquez speaks wisdom. But we cannot simply run away and hope they leave us alone. The Council has made their intentions clear. They mean to eliminate us whether we fight or flee. Elena studied the tactical displays showing Council fleet positions. How long do you think we have before they attack our homeworlds? Not long, Thakmor said. They will want to strike quickly, before word of what we discovered can spread to other species. My guess is that Council fleets are already moving toward Earth and Valoran Prime. As if summoned by his words, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. A Valoran communications officer called out, War Chief, we are receiving emergency transmissions from the home fleet. Council ships have appeared in Valoran space. They are demanding our immediate surrender. Elena felt her blood turn cold. What about Earth? Thakmar's communications officer checked his instruments. Human transmissions are being jammed, but we are picking up weapons fire from the direction of your home system. Elena closed her eyes and tried not to think about what was happening to her world. Her family lived on Earth, her friends, her fellow officers, millions of innocent people who had no idea why they were suddenly under attack. They are attacking both our worlds at the same time, Elena said. They want to make it look like we started fighting each other. When the smoke clears, they will tell the galaxy that humans and Valorans destroyed themselves in a territorial war. Thakmar's amber eyes burned with anger. Such dishonor, such cowardice. To attack during peace talks, to murder civilians, to blame the victims for their own deaths. This is not war, this is slaughter. The next few hours brought terrible news. Valoran Prime's orbital defenses were being overwhelmed by superior numbers. Earth's military was fighting bravely, but Council ships were bombing cities from orbit. Both worlds were calling for help, but their fleets were scattered across the galaxy on peacekeeping missions. Elena watched the tactical displays with growing horror. The attacks were surgical and precise. The Council was not trying to conquer Earth and Valoran Prime. They were trying to destroy them completely. Military bases, government centers, population centers, industrial facilities, everything that made a civilization function was being systematically eliminated. My people have a saying, Thakmar said quietly. When honor dies, only vengeance remains. Elena looked at the proud Valoran war chief and saw something breaking inside him. His people had served the Council faithfully for centuries. They had fought its wars, protected its interests, died for its causes. And this was their reward. My world is burning, Elena said. My people are dying, and the galaxy will be told that we brought it on ourselves. Captain Morkith slammed his fist on the table. War Chief, we cannot let this stand. We must return and fight for our homes. With what ships? Thakmar asked sadly. We have 12 vessels here. The Council has hundreds attacking each of our worlds. We would die bravely, but we would still die. Elena felt despair washing over her, but she forced herself to think. What if we do not go back? What if we survive and make sure the galaxy knows the truth? How? Thakmar asked. Who would believe us? The Council controls all communication. Networks, they will tell whatever story they choose. Elena looked around the room at the faces of human and Valoran officers. They were soldiers and explorers who had believed in peace and justice. Now they were refugees watching their worlds burn while their enemies celebrated. Then we make our own story, Elena said. We survive, we gather evidence, we find allies, and we make sure that what happened here today never happens again? Thakmor studied her face for a long moment. You speak of vengeance, Captain Vasquez? I speak of justice. Elena replied, The Council thinks they have won. They think they have eliminated the threat we represent. But they have made a mistake. They have left witnesses alive. And witnesses can become very dangerous enemies. As the last transmissions from their homeworlds faded into static, Elena and Thakmor made a pact that would reshape the galaxy. They would not mourn their dead in silence. They would not accept defeat gracefully. They would become something the Council had never faced before, an enemy that had nothing left to lose. The massacre was complete. But the war was just beginning. 2 years had passed since the massacre. Elena stood in the hidden base they had built inside a dead asteroid in the Void sector, where no Council ships ever traveled. Her reflection in the metal wall showed the changes the war had made to her. Half of her face was covered in burn scars from the day she tried to rescue survivors from Earth's burning cities. Her eyes had turned cold and calculating. The hopeful young captain who had believed in galactic peace was gone forever. She wore black now, like all the human survivors. They called her the Wraith because she could appear anywhere in Council space without being detected. The name fit. She felt like a ghost haunting the galaxy. Seeking revenge for the dead, Thakmor entered the command center, and Elena could see that he had changed too. The proud Valoran war chief no longer wore the bright colors of his clan. His armor was now dark gray, the color of mourning. Deep lines marked his face, and his amber eyes burned with constant anger. He had taken a new title among his people, Grief Bringer, the one who carries the pain of the fallen. The latest reports from our scouts, Thakmor said, handing Elena a data tablet. The Council has finished their story about our worlds. They are telling the galaxy that humans and Valorans destroyed each other in a border war. They say they tried to stop the fighting, but arrived too late to save anyone. Elena read the report and felt her anger grow stronger. According to Council propaganda, both species had been too violent and primitive for galactic civilization. The destruction of Earth and Valoran Prime was being used as an example of why the Council needed stronger control over dangerous species. How many survivors do we have now? Elena asked. 7,000 humans scattered across 20 hidden bases, Thakmor replied. 4,000 Valorans in the deep void stations. Not enough to rebuild our civilizations, but enough to make the Council pay for what they did. Elena walked to the main display screen that showed a map of Council space. Red dots marked targets they had already hit. Green dots showed future targets. There were many more green dots than red ones. The attack on the Zykri supply depot was successful, Elena said. We destroyed 6 months of food shipments and made it look like an accident. The explosion also damaged their communications relay, so 3 star systems are now cut off from Council command. Thakmor nodded with satisfaction. My teams hit the Council recruitment center on Vex Prime. No one was killed, but the facility was completely destroyed. More importantly, we rescued 43 prisoners who were being prepared for the experiment programs. Elena felt a moment of warmth at the news. Every person they saved was a victory against the Council's evil. The rescued prisoners always had the same look when they were freed, confusion and disbelief that anyone would risk their lives to help strangers. What did you learn from the prisoners? Elena asked. The experiments are still continuing, Thakmor sighed, his voice heavy with anger. The facility we discovered was just one of many. They have bases throughout Council space, all working on the same project. They are trying to create super soldiers by combining genetic material from different species. Elena was not surprised, but the news still made her sick. They want to build an army that has the best traits of every species. Human adaptability, Valoran strength, ethereal psychic powers, crystalline durability. An army that could conquer any world. The prisoners also told us something else, Thakmor continued. The Council is having problems with other species. The ethereal nomads are asking questions about missing members. The Crystalline Collective is demanding to know why their mining worlds are being stripped bare. The swarm dancers have stopped, responding to council orders entirely. Elena felt the first real hope she had experienced in months. The council's control is slipping. Other species are starting to see the truth. Perhaps, Fakemore said. But they are also becoming more desperate. Intelligence reports say the Inner Circle is planning something they call Operation Cleansing Dawn. We do not know what it is, but the name suggests something terrible. Elena studied the star map again. Their war against the council had been carefully planned. They never attacked civilian targets or killed innocent people. Every strike was designed to damage the council's power while exposing their crimes. But it was slow work, and Elena sometimes wondered if they were making any real difference. We need more allies, Elena said. We cannot defeat the council with just human and Valorant survivors. We need other species to join our cause. I have been thinking the same thing, Fakemore said. My scouts report that a group of ethereal nomads has gone into hiding in the Drift Nebula. They are led by someone called Mind Speaker Zareth. She has been asking dangerous questions about council policies. Elena had heard of the ethereal nomads. They were a species of energy beings who could communicate through thought. The council used them as living communication networks but treated them like tools rather than people. Can we contact them without the council knowing? Elena asked. Perhaps. The Drift Nebula interferes with most sensors and communication equipment. If we sent a small team with the right technology, we might be able to reach them. Elena made her decision quickly. I will go. Take 2 ships and a small crew. If we can convince the ethereal nomads to join us, other species might follow. Too dangerous, Fakemore said immediately. You are too valuable to risk on a contact. Mission, send someone else. No, Elena said firmly. This is too important. If I want to convince other species to trust us, I need to show them that humans are willing to take the same risks we ask of them. Besides, who else has the authority to make agreements with potential allies? Fakemore was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. You are right, but I'm coming with you. The Valorans have also suffered from council betrayal. We should both speak to these ethereal nomads. Elena spent the next week preparing for the mission. She studied everything they knew about ethereal nomad culture and psychology. They were peaceful beings who valued knowledge and truth above all else. They had joined the council centuries ago because they believed in the dream of galactic cooperation. Learning about the experiments and cover-ups would devastate them. The journey to the Drift Nebula took 5 days through dangerous space. They traveled in ships equipped with the best stealth technology human and Valorant engineers could create. The hulls were covered in materials that absorbed sensor beams. The engines were designed to produce minimal energy signatures. Even their life support systems were modified to avoid detection. Elena commanded the human stealth ship Shadow Walker. Fakemore led the Valorant vessel Silent Strike. Both ships were small and fast, capable of outrunning larger council warships. If they were discovered, the Drift Nebula was beautiful and terrifying. Clouds of glowing gas stretched for light years in every direction. Lightning storms crackled between the dust clouds and strange energy patterns danced through the cosmic mist. It was the perfect place to hide from the council's sensors. Contact, announced Elena's sensor operator. Multiple energy signatures ahead. They match ethereal nomad ship designs, but they are heavily modified. On the main screen, Elena could see the nomad fleet. The ships looked like flowing works of art made from crystallized light. But these vessels had been equipped with weapons and armor, turning beautiful exploration ships into instruments of war. They are scanning us, the communications officer reported. Wait, we are receiving a transmission. It is not using normal radio waves, it is some kind of direct mental contact. Elena felt a strange tingling in her mind, and suddenly she could hear a voice that was not quite a voice. It was like having someone else's thoughts appear in her head. Unknown vessels, identify yourselves. Are you agents of the council come to drag us back to slavery? Elena concentrated on forming her thoughts clearly. She had never communicated telepathically before, but she tried to project her intentions. I am Captain Elena Vasquez of Earth. My companion is War Chief Thakamor of Valoran Prime. We seek an audience with Mindspeaker Zareth. The mental voice was silent for several minutes. Then it returned, filled with surprise and suspicion. Earth and Valoran Prime were destroyed 2 years ago. The Council showed us the records. You claim to represent dead worlds. The Council. Lead? Elena projected her thoughts as strongly as she could. We are survivors of the massacre. We have proof that our worlds were destroyed by Council forces, not by war between our species. Another long silence. Then the mental voice returned. But it was different now, older and wiser. I am Mindspeaker Zareth. Bring your ships to the coordinates I am sending. But know that if you are Council agents, you will not leave this nebula alive. Elena's ship followed the transmitted coordinates to a hidden base built inside a massive asteroid. The base was a work of art with flowing passages and chambers that glowed with soft light. Ethereal nomads floated through the corridors like living stars, their energy forms shifting and dancing as they moved. Zareth was waiting for them in a chamber that seemed to be made of pure light. She was one of the most beautiful beings Elena had ever seen, like a sculpture carved from liquid starlight. But her thoughts carried deep sadness and anger. Show me your proof, Zareth said, her mental voice echoing in Elena's mind. For the next 3 hours, Elena and Thakamor shared everything they had discovered. The secret experiments, the genetic harvesting, the setup that led to the destruction of their worlds. They showed video evidence, data files, and testimony from rescued prisoners. Zareth's light dimmed as she absorbed the terrible truth. We suspected something was wrong. Too many of our people have vanished on Council missions. Too many questions have been ignored or dismissed. But we never imagined the corruption went so deep. The Council has been using all of us, Elena sighed. Every species in the galaxy is just a resource to be exploited. They take what they want and dispose of anyone who becomes inconvenient. What do you ask of us? Zareth inquired. Join our war against the Council, Thakamor said. Help. U.S. expose their crimes to the galaxy. Help us rescue the prisoners and stop the experiments. And if we refuse, Elena met the alien's glowing gaze, then we will continue fighting alone. But eventually the Council will come for your people too. They are already experimenting with ethereal genetics. How long before they decide your species is too dangerous to leave free? Zareth was quiet for a long time. Elena could sense the mental conversations happening between the ethereal nomads as they debated what to do. Finally, Zareth spoke again. We will join your alliance, but we have conditions. We will not attack civilian targets. We will not use our psychic abilities to harm innocent minds. And we will only fight until the experiments are stopped and the prisoners are freed. Agreed, Elena said immediately. We fight for justice, not conquest. As Elena and Thakamor prepared to leave the nebula, they carried with them something they had not had before. Hope. The alliance was small, but it was growing. More importantly, they had proven that other species could be convinced to stand against the Council. This is only the beginning, Elena said as they returned to the hidden base. The crystalline collective, the swarm dancers, maybe even species we have never heard of. The galaxy is full of people who have been hurt by the Council. Thakamor nodded. The Council thinks they destroyed us when they burned our worlds, but they only made us stronger. They gave us a cause worth dying for. Elena looked out at the stars and thought about all the innocent people suffering in Council experiments. She thought about the children being tortured, the families being torn apart, the species being slowly driven to extinction. The Council had created something they never expected when they destroyed Earth and Valoran Prime. They had created an enemy that would never stop, never surrender, and never forgive. The war for the galaxy's soul was just beginning, and Elena intended to win it no matter the cost. 5 years had passed since the alliance began. Elena stood in the war room of their largest hidden base. built inside a massive space station that had been abandoned for centuries. The room was filled with representatives from 12 different species, all united in their hatred of the Council's crimes. Maps and battle plans covered every wall, showing the progress of their shadow war. Elena's appearance had changed again. The burn scars on her face had become symbols of resistance to her followers. She wore a black uniform with no rank insignia. But everyone in the room knew she was the supreme commander of the human resistance forces. Her reputation as the Wraith had spread throughout the galaxy, and Council officers now feared her name. Thakmor entered the room carrying urgent reports. The Valoran war chief looked older but stronger, his forearms bearing new scars from recent battles. His dark armor was decorated with symbols representing every species that had joined their cause. Among the Valorans, he was now known as the Grief-Bringer who brings justice. The latest intelligence from our spies inside Council space, Thakmor announced to the assembled leaders. The Council is accelerating their schedule for Operation Cleansing Dawn. Our sources believe they plan to launch it within 6 months. Mind Speaker Zareth's glowing form flickered with concern. Have we learned what this operation involves? Elena activated the main display screen, which showed a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red zones marked areas under complete Council control, while yellow zones showed contested space where the resistance was active. According to the data our infiltrators have gathered, Elena said, Operation Cleansing Dawn is a biological weapon designed to eliminate specific species while leaving others untouched. The Council has been using the genetic material from their experiments to create a virus that can target any life form they choose. A shocked silence filled the room. Crystal singer Veltar of the Crystalline Collective spoke first, her voice making musical sounds like wind chimes. You mean they could kill every member of a species without harming anyone else? Exactly, Elena confirmed. They could release this weapon into a planet's atmosphere and eliminate only the species they consider troublesome. Everyone else would be completely safe. Hive Mother Chixara of the Swarm Dancers made angry clicking sounds with her mandibles. This explains why they needed so many different genetic samples. They were building a weapon to commit genocide on a galactic scale. Elena nodded grimly. Our intelligence suggests they plan to use it first on the species that have been causing them the most problems. That means us, but also any species that has been asking too many questions or refusing to follow orders. Thakmor brought up another display showing Council fleet movements. They are gathering ships from across the galaxy and positioning them near the homeworlds of targeted species. When they release the weapon, they want military forces in place to take control of the now empty planets. Elena studied the tactical situation. The Council's plan was diabolical in its efficiency. They could eliminate entire civilizations without damaging the planets or infrastructure. Then they could simply move in and claim the resources for themselves. How many species are on their target list? Asked Pack Leader Guruth of the Feral clans. At least 30, Elena replied, including every species represented in this room. The Council has decided that the galaxy would be better off with fewer different types of life in it. Zareth's mental voice filled everyone's minds simultaneously. We cannot allow this to happen. But how do we stop a weapon we cannot see or touch? Elena had been thinking about this problem for weeks. We need to do 3 things. First, we need to capture one of their research facilities to learn exactly how the weapon works. Second, we need to warn every species in the galaxy about what is coming. Third, we need to destroy their ability to manufacture and deploy the weapon. That will require a direct assault on Council core worlds, Thakmor pointed out. We have grown strong, but we still cannot match their fleet numbers in open battle. Elena smiled for the first time in months. Then we do not fight them in open battle. We fight them the way humans and Valorans have learned to fight over the past 5 years. We use their own strength against them. Over the next 3 hours, Elena outlined her plan to the assembled resistance leaders. It was ambitious and dangerous, requiring perfect coordination between multiple strike teams across dozens of star systems. But if it worked, It would cripple the Council's ability to commit galactic genocide. The first phase involves simultaneous attacks on Council research facilities. Elena would personally lead a team to infiltrate the primary weapons laboratory on Zikri Prime, the heavily defended homeworld of the Council's ruling species. Meanwhile, other teams would hit secondary facilities to gather additional intelligence and rescue prisoners. Thakemur would command the second phase, coordinating attacks on Council communication networks throughout the galaxy. The Resistance had spent years building secret transmitters and infiltrating media systems. When the time came, they would broadcast the truth about Operation Cleansing Dawn to every species in Council. Spaced simultaneously, the third phase would be the most dangerous. Strike teams would attack the Council's weapon manufacturing plants and storage facilities. These targets were located in the most heavily defended systems in the galaxy, protected by massive fleets and orbital defense platforms. The timing must be perfect, Elena emphasized. If we attack the research facilities too early, the Council will move their weapons to backup locations. If we broadcast the truth too late, some species might not have time to prepare their defenses. Crystal Singer. Veltar raised a concern. What if the Council decides to deploy their weapon early when they realize we are attacking their facilities? That is why we need the intelligence from the primary lab first, Elena explained. We need to know how the weapon is deployed, how long it takes to prepare, and what defenses might exist against it. Elena spent the next 2 weeks preparing for the most dangerous mission of her career. Infiltrating Zikri Prime would require her to penetrate security systems that had been built over centuries. The planet was protected by sensor networks that could detect a single unauthorized ship from light years away. But Elena had advantages the Council did not expect. 5 years of war had taught the Resistance how to build technology that was completely invisible to Council sensors. Their ships were ghosts that could slip through the most advanced detection grids without leaving a trace. More importantly, Lena had allies inside the Council itself. Not everyone who worked for the Galactic government agreed with the Inner Circle's policies. Some were species that had been conquered rather than joining willingly. Others were individuals who had joined the Council believing in its stated ideals, only to discover the corruption that festered at its heart. Agent Cassara was one such ally. She was a Zikri scientist who worked in the Weapons Research Division. 2 years ago, she had contacted the Resistance after discovering what her colleagues were really doing with the genetic samples they studied. Since then, she had been passing intelligence to Elena's network while maintaining her cover. The primary lab is located beneath the Council's main administrative complex, Cassara explained during a secret meeting in the ruins of an ancient space station. Security is absolute. Genetic scanners, psychic monitors, energy field detectors. Nothing gets in or out without authorization from the Inner Circle itself. Elena studied the facility plans that Cassara had stolen. What about maintenance access? Even the most secure facility needs repairs and cleaning. There is a waste disposal system that connects to the city's main recycling center, Cassara said. But it is monitored by automated systems and protected by force fields. Can you disable those systems from the inside? Cassara's insect features showed nervousness. Perhaps, but only for a few minutes. And once the alarms start, you will have very little time before security forces arrive. Elena had infiltrated many Council facilities over the years, but never anything this well protected. The slightest mistake would mean not just her death, but the failure of the entire operation. Billions of lives depended on her success. I will need a complete layout of the facility, Elena said. Security schedules, personnel lists, emergency procedures. Everything you can get without arousing suspicion. I can provide most of that, Cassara said. But Elena, you must understand, if you are caught, I cannot help you. My position is too valuable to the Resistance to risk exposure. Elena nodded. I understand. If something goes wrong, you must maintain your cover no matter what happens to me. The infiltration took place 3 weeks later, during a major Council celebration that would distract security forces throughout the capital city. Elena's ship approached Zikri Prime using a flight path that took her through the system's asteroid belt, where her vessel would be invisible among the floating rocks. She wore a stealth suit that made her nearly transparent to both visual and electronic detection. The suit was a masterpiece of human and alien technology, incorporating ethereal psychic dampeners, crystalline energy absorption materials, and swarm dancer pheromone maskers. The waste disposal tunnels were exactly as Cassara had described them: narrow, dirty, and filled with automated cleaning systems that could shred an intruder in seconds. Elena moved through them like a shadow, timing her progress to avoid the mechanical sweepers and incinerator cycles. The force field protecting the lab entrance flickered and died exactly as scheduled. Cassara had done her part perfectly. Elena had less than 3 minutes to reach the main data core before the system automatically reactivated. The laboratory was a horrifying place. Tanks filled with genetic material lined the walls, each one labeled with the name of a different species. Computer terminals displayed research notes about biological weapons and extinction scenarios. In the center of the room sat the master database containing every detail of Operation Cleansing Dawn. Elena connected her portable data unit to the main computer and began downloading everything. The files were enormous, containing detailed genetic maps of hundreds of species and precise formulas for targeting specific life forms. As the data transferred, Elena read some of the research notes and felt sick to her stomach. The Council had not just planned to eliminate troublesome species. They had designed the weapon to cause maximum suffering before death. The virus would attack the nervous system first, causing intense pain and terror. Only then would it shut down vital organs. It was genocide designed to be as cruel as possible. Alarms began blaring throughout the facility as the download completed. Elena had gotten what she came for, but now she had to escape through a building full of soldiers who wanted her dead. The waste disposal tunnels were already sealed, cutting off her planned escape route. Elena fought her way through corridors filled with Council security forces. Her weapons were designed to disable rather than kill, but the enemy showed no such restraint. Energy blasts scorched the walls around her as she ran toward the emergency exits. She reached the building's roof just as Council aircraft began surrounding the structure. There was no way to reach her hidden ship without being detected and shot down. Elena was trapped with nowhere to run. Then the sky lit up with explosions as Thakmer's rescue fleet engaged the Council forces above the city. Valoran warships appeared from behind the planet's moons, their weapons blazing as they carved through the defensive formations. "Elena, this is Thakmer," came the war chief's voice over her communicator. "We are extracting you now. Get to the roof's center and prepare for pickup." A Valoran assault ship dropped through the battle above, its shields absorbing enemy fire. As it landed on the roof, Elena ran toward it while Council soldiers poured out of the building behind her. Energy blasts filled the air as she dove through the ship's open hatch. "Did you get what we need?" Thakmer asked as the ship lifted. Alpha rejoined the fleet. Elena held up the data unit containing the stolen information. "Everything. We know how their weapon works when they plan to deploy it and how to stop it." As the Resistance fleet escaped into hyperspace, Elena studied the intelligence she had gathered. The Council's plan was even worse than they had suspected, but now they had the knowledge needed to defeat it. The real war was about to begin, and this time the Resistance would not be fighting in the shadows. They would bring the battle directly to the Council's doorstep and show the galaxy what happened to those who tried to commit genocide. The galaxy would soon learn that when Earth and Valoran Prime were destroyed, something new and terrible had been born from their ashes, something that would never stop hunting those responsible. The final battle began with silence. Across the galaxy, Resistance fleets moved into position around Council worlds like ghosts in the night. Elena stood on the bridge of the flagship Vengeance, a massive ship built from the combined technology of 12 different species. Through the viewing window, she could see the lights of Zikri Prime, the heart of the Council's evil empire. It had been 6 months since Elena stole the Operation Cleansing Dawn files. 6 months of desperate preparation as the Resistance built, the largest fleet in galactic history. Ships from every oppressed species had joined the cause, from tiny ethereal scout vessels to enormous crystalline dreadnoughts. They were outnumbered 3-1, but they carried something the Council had forgotten, the righteous fury of the betrayed. Thakmor stood beside Elena, his scarred face calm despite the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. The Valoran war chief had aged greatly in the years since their worlds burned, but his amber eyes still blazed with the fire of vengeance. Around his neck hung a chain of metal tags, each one bearing the name of a fallen comrade. There were thousands of them. "All fleets report ready," announced Commander Chun, who had served as Elena's second-in-command since the beginning. He too had changed from the eager young officer she once knew. His face was hard now, marked by years of war and loss. Elena activated the communication system that connected her to every Resistance ship in the galaxy. Her voice carried to millions of beings who had suffered under Council rule. "My friends, my allies, my fellow survivors. Today we finish what the Council started when they murdered our families and destroyed our homes." The response was immediate. Voices from dozens of species filled the communication channels, speaking in hundreds of languages but sharing one common purpose. They were ready to fight, ready to die if necessary, ready to make the Council pay for every life they had taken. "The Council thinks they have already won," Elena continued. "They believe their secret weapon will eliminate everyone who opposes them, but they made one critical mistake. They left witnesses alive, and witnesses remember everything. On screens. Throughout the fleet, the stolen intelligence files appeared. Video evidence of the genetic experiments, documentation of the planned genocide, proof of every crime the Council had committed. But this information was not just being shown to the Resistance fleet. It was being broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Mindspeaker. Zareth had coordinated the greatest psychic communication in galactic history. Ethereal nomads throughout Council space were using their telepathic abilities to transmit the truth directly into the minds of billions of beings. No government censorship could stop thoughts themselves. The reaction was immediate and explosive. On Council worlds, civilian populations rose in revolt as they learned the truth about their government. Space stations declared independence. Entire star systems announced they were leaving the Council. The galactic government that had ruled for 1,000 years began to crumble in a matter of hours. But the inner circle was not finished. Elder Vexhias' voice crackled over emergency communication channels, speaking to Council military forces throughout the galaxy. "All loyal forces engage the terrorist fleets immediately. Operation Cleansing Dawn is authorized for immediate deployment. Eliminate all resistance forces and their sympathizers." Elena felt a cold chill as she heard those words. The Council was going to deploy their genocide weapon early, hoping to kill the Resistance before they could be stopped. The race against time had begun. "All ships, attack pattern 7, Elena commanded. Primary targets are the weapon storage facilities. Do not let a single biological weapon leave Council space." The battle erupted across multiple star systems simultaneously. Elena's flagship led the assault on Zikri Prime while other Resistance fleets attacked Council strongholds throughout the galaxy. The space around each world lit up with weapon fire as thousands of ships clashed in the largest military engagement in galactic history. The Vengeance punched through the Council's outer defense line, her shields absorbing massive amounts of energy fire. Around her, smaller Resistance ships darted between enemy vessels like deadly insects, their weapons targeting specific weak points that intelligence had identified. Thakmor commanded the ship's weapon systems with deadly precision. Each shot from the Vengeance's main guns destroyed a Council vessel or defense platform. The Valoran war chief had become a master of space combat, turning war into an art form painted in fire and destruction. "Enemy reinforcements approaching from the inner system," reported the sensor operator. "Admiral Zerthan's personal fleet is moving to intercept us," Elena smiled grimly. Admiral Zerthan was the Zikri commander who had led the attack on Earth. and Valoran Prime 7 years ago. She had been hunting him ever since, and now he was coming to her. All ships maintain course for the weapon facilities, Elena ordered. I will deal with the Admiral personally. Elena left the bridge and headed for the ship's docking bay, where her personal fighter was waiting. The small ship was a masterpiece of human engineering, incorporating stealth technology, advanced weapons, and armor that could withstand incredible punishment. She had named it Ghost of Earth in memory of her dead world. As Elena launched from the Vengeance, she could see the full scope of the battle raging around Zikri Prime. Resistance ships were pressing their attack on multiple fronts while Council forces desperately tried to defend their most important installations. Explosions lit up the darkness as ships died on both sides. Admiral Zerthan's flagship, the Dominion, was a massive vessel designed to intimidate enemies with its size and firepower. It was 10 times larger than Elena's fighter, armed with weapons that could destroy entire cities. But Elena had advantages the Admiral did not expect. She activated her ship's stealth systems and vanished from enemy sensors. The Ghost of Earth became invisible as it approached the Dominion, slipping past defensive fire that could not target what it could not see. Elena had learned much about warfare in 7 years of fighting, and now she would use every lesson. Elena's fighter attached itself to the Dominion's hull like a parasite, using magnetic clamps to avoid detection. Then she activated her ship's most secret weapon, a device that could override enemy computer systems using quantum entanglement. Technology stolen from Council research facilities. The Dominion's shields flickered and died as Elena's virus infected its computers. Emergency lights flashed throughout the massive ship as its systems began to fail one by one. Admiral Zerthan's voice could be heard over open communication channels, screaming orders that his crew could not follow. Elena detached her fighter and flew directly toward the Dominion's bridge, her weapons charged as she prepared to end the life of the being who had murdered her world. This was personal now, beyond strategy or tactics. This was justice, but as Elena approached her target, alarms began blaring throughout the battle zone. Council ships throughout the galaxy were launching missiles toward populated worlds. Missiles that carried the biological weapons of Operation Cleansing Dawn. The genocide had begun. Elena faced an impossible choice. She could complete her personal vendetta and kill Admiral Zerthan, or she could abandon her revenge to help stop the weapon deployment. She thought of her family on Earth, her friends who had died in the Council's attack, all the people who would never see justice if she failed. Then she thought of the billions of innocent beings who would die if the biological weapons reached their targets. Children who had done nothing wrong except being born into species the Council wanted to eliminate. Families who had no idea that death was falling toward them from the sky. Elena turned her fighter away from the Dominion and flew toward the weapon storage facility on Zikri Prime's surface. Admiral Zerhan would have to wait. Saving the innocent was more important than personal revenge. The storage facility was protected by massive energy shields and automated defense systems. But Elena's approach was unexpected. Instead of attacking the facility directly, she targeted the planet's power grid. The Ghost of Earth's weapons struck the main power stations that fed energy to the defensive systems. As the shields failed, Thakmer led a ground assault team toward the facility. Valoran warriors fought their way through Council security forces while human engineers worked to disable the weapons before they could be deployed. The battle was brutal and desperate, with neither side asking for or giving quarter. Elena landed her fighter near the facility's main entrance and joined the ground assault. She fought side by side with Thakmer, the human and Valoran who had started as reluctant allies and become the closest of friends. Together they carved through enemy defenses toward the weapon storage chambers. The interior of the facility was a nightmare. Rows of biological weapons lined the walls, each one capable of killing every member of a targeted species. In the center of the room stood a massive deployment system that could launch the weapons toward any world in the galaxy. Elena and Thakmer reached the control center just as Council technicians were preparing to launch the final wave of weapons. The countdown had already begun. They had less than 5 minutes to stop a genocide that would kill billions of beings. Can you stop it? Fakemore asked as Elena worked frantically at the control systems. The launch sequence is protected by quantum encryption, Elena replied, her fingers flying over the controls. But I think I can reverse the process and destroy the weapons in their storage containers. Elena's modifications to the deployment system worked perfectly. Instead of launching toward their targets, the biological weapons detonated inside the facility itself. The entire installation disappeared in a massive explosion that could be seen from orbit. Similar explosions lit up the sky above Council worlds throughout the galaxy as resistance forces destroyed weapon storage facilities faster than they could be deployed. The genocide that was supposed to eliminate 30 species managed to kill only a few thousand beings before being stopped completely. With their ultimate weapon destroyed, the Council's military forces began to surrender. Many had never supported the Inner Circle's policies and were relieved to lay down their arms. Others switched sides entirely, joining the resistance forces that had exposed the truth about their government. Elder Vex High and the other Inner Circle members were captured trying to escape in a private ship loaded with stolen wealth. They were brought before a tribunal composed of representatives from every species they had wronged. The trial was broadcast throughout the galaxy, ensuring that everyone could see justice being done. Elena stood before the tribunal as the primary witness against the Council's crimes. She presented the evidence she had gathered over 7 years of war, documentation of the experiments, video recordings of the genocide weapon, testimony from thousands of survivors and rescued prisoners. The Council claimed to represent peace and cooperation, Elena said to the assembled judges. But they were nothing more than tyrants who used noble words to hide evil actions. They experimented on children, committed genocide, and tried to eliminate any species that questioned their authority. The verdict was unanimous. The Inner Circle members were found guilty of crimes against all sentient life. Their punishment was to spend the rest of their lives in prison, forced to face the families of their victims every day until they died. Elena watched the sentencing with mixed emotions. Justice had been served, but it could not bring back the billions who had died. Earth and Valoran Prime were still gone. The friends and family she had lost were still dead. Victory felt hollow when the price had been so high. But as Elena left the tribunal, she was met by a sight that filled her heart with hope. Representatives from dozens of species were working together to build a new galactic government, one based on true cooperation rather than domination. The children of different worlds played together in the corridors, their laughter echoing through halls that had once known only fear. Fakemore found Elena standing on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. The Valoran war chief carried himself differently now. The rage that had driven him for so long was finally at peace. "It is finished," Fakemore said simply. "Yes," Elena replied, "but now the real work begins. Building something better from the ashes of what we destroyed." Elena thought about the long journey that had brought them to this moment. From naive young officers who believed in galactic peace, to hardened warriors seeking vengeance, to leaders of a revolution that had changed the galaxy forever. They had lost everything, but they had also gained something precious, the knowledge that evil could be defeated when good beings stood together. In the years that followed, Elena and Fakemore worked to establish the new Galactic Alliance, a government that truly represented all species equally. They helped rebuild worlds that had been damaged by the war and created laws to ensure that the Council's crimes could never be repeated. Elena never returned to Earth. Her home world was gone forever, existing only in her memories. But she found a new home among the stars, surrounded by friends from a dozen different species who had become her chosen family. Sometimes, late at night, Elena would look up at the stars and remember the young captain who had once believed that the galaxy was a peaceful place. That woman was gone, burned away by war and betrayal. But from her ashes had risen someone stronger, someone who had helped save billions of lives and create a better future for all. The Council had thought they could destroy humanity and the Valorans without consequences. They had been wrong. Some species, when pushed to the brink of extinction, do not simply die quietly. They rise up with such fury that they reshape the entire galaxy in their wake. Earth and Valoran Prime had fallen, but their children among the stars had ensured that their sacrifice would never be forgotten, and their enemies would never be forgiven.